When we last left everyone, you had explored the exterior of the Sea Lion Inn and had promptly decided that the abandoned bookstore was far more important. And you headed off in that direction. The sun is just dipping below the horizon. You are going to find yourself in the evening, the actual night, very, very soon. The important thing to note about Lithny is it's not part of Gilder, and that means that it doesn't have any sun lamps, if I understand my lore correctly.
That's right. It is part of the country of Brightport, so no fellowship around here.
No fellowship around here.
Yeah, so we're going to go to the bookstore.
You're heading to the bookstore.
We flap in through a broken window.
So this bookstore is on kind of the main thoroughfare of the town, the street that heads back out to the dock, the beach, where anybody a couple generations ago would have been visiting and spending their time, would have been coming up along this way with the shops. The shop itself has broken windows, collapsed bits of ceiling. Again, that A-frame just has some holes in it where the weather has come in. There's a few shelves of books, and it looks like it's been at least a generation since anybody has visited this store or given it any care. The rows of books, some have toppled over, some are covered in leaves and debris, and there's a small counter with a rusted old bell on it.
So Travis goes over to the counter first, puts his I have a good look round first, like proper nose, my beakers everywhere, just to see if anyone else is watching. Almost out of habit, put my hand on the clapper of the bell as well, and look at it for a moment, and without really thinking, take it. Just goes into, if it's a small bell, just goes into, it's a small shiny metal thing, just goes into a pocket. But I've disabled the bell ringing sound, possibly with like a bit of wax. But again, it's totally unconscious that I've just taken it. And then I'm looking for the cash box or where receipts would be kept. So I'm not looking to loot. I'm more looking for like ledgers.
See, we were wondering how a village this small could maintain an entire bookstore, but clearly it hasn't. In fact, it's been neglected for so long, so much longer than everything else in this village. Maybe that's what caused the decline of Lithny. But when you stop reading, what purpose is there to live? You need to stimulate your mind so your body has a reason to keep on going. Tragedy upon tragedy. Maybe this is the great melancholy we sensed when we first came here.
Perhaps it is.
So have abandoned their books, and it is too late for the bees.
Ooh, Fedrit, I've 100 cheeses to eat before you die. It looks like a first edition.
Oh, what condition is it in? And we run over and start taking off the shelf gingerly. And
I don't know what it is, but I want to roll for this book to not disintegrate in your hands.
What about the advantages? The advantages.
The advantages.
So there'll be some boosts.
Coordination, maybe. One of the knowledge skills, history, education.
It needs to be a physical one. So coordination, agility would work.
Survival.
Skullduggery would work, because that's
Vigilance?
like picking locks and stuff like that. So it's a gentle thing. Survival.
Resilience for dealing with the heartache when it inevitably crumbles.
Yeah. That we'll use that one to determine strain if it crumbles.
Like I think realistically it's probably coordination, and I have no ranks in it, but I think it probably is.
I'm rolling 3 greens for coordination if we're working together. That also affords 2 boosts, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah. Well, do you want to do it because you have a higher agility than me, or as opposed
I'll do
can
it since
you?
I have the higher agility. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm taking point on this one.
I will provide the boosts as an assist.
The difficulty, Andrew, for our book of 100 cheeses to eat before you die.
Hard. It's been sitting on a bookshelf for 25,
Exposed to
30
the
years,
elements.
exposed to the elements.
Maybe this village deserved to die. Philistines with heathens.
Just so that I rolling back just a little bit because I feel like I may have glossed over this. Lithny itself was a bustling town, maybe 1,000 people in its heyday, like lived here, and then that was a couple generations ago. Then new trade lines and railways opened up, and so there's been at least a generation, if not two, where the town's population has shrunk to maybe just under 100 people to take care of this lighthouse and kind of run the town and manage supply chains and things like that.
But what does they do in the evening, Andrew, if not sit around and read?
Oh, I know exactly what they do in the evening.
Yeah.
It's evening now. You guys might
missing
find
out on it.
They raise Cthulhu in the dark. They're all bally necromancers. Every single one of them.
As they're like sort of shitty moving this book, and Travis is looking through the cupboards for actual clues, I'll just look up and go, do you want actual tools? And I'll stop what I'm doing. And is it fair to assume that I have like a brush, tweezers, these sort of things, because a treasure kit?
At worst, you've got deep pockets. You can just take them out of your
I can
pouch.
just take it out of my pocket.
Deep pockets is a once per session thing.
Yeah.
Oh, boo.
So
Probably
I'm,
not
slight,
worth it
I'm,
for-
I'm slightly
No.
reluctant to use deep pockets, but I am likely to have, essentially thieves' tools, but you'd never call them thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Should have flipped a light side point, Mark.
Should have. So I ended up with one advantage. Can it be that while the binding has worn out, we still have a bunch of loose sheets of paper that we can potentially bind ourselves?
Yes.
So we carefully try to take this book off the shelf. And as we do so, the cover falls off. The glue has worn out, but we have a sheaf of 100 pages loose that are not disintegrating, but are no longer bound.
This is a grave tragedy. We reach into one of our kind of pockets on the satchel we're carrying, and we draw out one of the book-shaped packages that's wrapped very firmly in waterproof skins, and we open it up, and there are indeed a couple of novels in there, and we gently put these sheaves of paper in between those two bound books, and then retie it, and then go into another pocket and get another piece of skin out because it's now too big, and then kind of just bodge it together so it's waterproof and force it into this now bulging satchel pouch. Ah, well,
Not ideal.
no, but at least we have something to show for it.
Have you found any more copper follies?
No, this place probably predates Copper Follies looking at it.
There's just a cracking sound as I'm jimmying up part of the counter. Do I actually find anything?
Yeah. So there was a stuck cabinet behind the counter underneath the cabinet door that you've pried open, and there's a ledger in there, seemingly of same wear and tear as the 100 cheeses to eat before you die, as most of the books are. There's weathering and all of that on the countertop, so it's not been sealed or protected from the elements. There's definitely some water damage on the cover itself. And then there's probably a couple other things, but I can't think of what else a bookstore clerk would keep in a cabinet.
Inkwell, paper,
Orders.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for receipts.
Yeah, but also requests so that next time they go to the mainland, it's like putting a request in a library. Next time you go to the mainland, I want you to pick up these books for us, kind of pre-orders almost.
Mm-hmm.
Travis takes his gloves off very carefully, and then very carefully rubs the sweat off his hands. Takes the books.
Who's a bird person? Do you have sweaty hands?
Well, I'll have, because I'm wearing gloves, I'll have quiet moisture anyway. Make sure the moisture is off the hands, and then very, very carefully. If I have any tools, then I would use them as well. But very carefully lay the ledger down, and just page by page, open it up, almost reverentially. But that's just not to hurt it. Do I need to make a roll to avoid disintegrating, or can I just?
Yeah, let's keep it on theme. You got the same hard coordination check to flip through this ledger.
Can I use skullduggery?
You can.
Flip a light side point head to upgrade. We have 4, and this is actually relevant.
My coordination is better, so I'm going to use my coordination. So flip a light side point, so I can have 2 yellow. 3 yellow,
Yeah.
and it's 3 purple, yes?
Yes.
Could he get a boost for having the tools for the job?
There's should be at least one more boost left from the earlier sense check that we haven't used. So yeah. It's gonna be
What
one of
is it
these
about
kinds
this-
of games, huh?
This dice roller refuses to let us have books. It is anti-literature and outrageous. Sad time. Man.
0 successes, 4 advantages. That's not.
So the weather has also gotten to this book as well, this ledger. The rows upon rows of titles and receipts and markings of in and out on inventory is vastly smudged and water damaged. The ink has run. It's largely illegible. I mean,
Not only is the black dot you rot got here, but something's eaten these books. Look, and like I pull out like a stringy cocoon of like mess.
Mhm.
It's become moth food. See, and that's why you don't use cloth in your binding.
Frederick nods solemnly and sadly.
Can I spend any advantages to get like bits of?
I think that in particular, as you flip through and you get to the end of the last time anything was noted in the ledger, you can see that the damage is extensive enough that it would have been 20, 30 years ago that someone actually ran this bookshop, and it's just been sitting here locked up since.
Is there an upstairs?
I think there's just a small back room, like closet covered kind of place, but no, there isn't an upstairs.
Being people who are very into books, personally being a person who is very into books, I feel like a person who owns a bookshop is going to keep the best books somewhere where they're not going to get water damaged. Because we're on an island, if there's a storm, if there's a flood, there's going to be a place in this place where something is safe.
And we have Ed has 4 advantages to play with. So
I'd like to spend at least 1 or 2 of those advantages to find the key for where the good stuff's been kept. Yeah, if that's in a long box or something along those lines. And like essentially maybe it's been tucked into the binding.
Mhm.
So if it's got
and since the binding's falling apart, the key's now exposed.
Yeah, a small brass key falls out. Yeah,
that was clever. They hid that really cleverly in the in the inset and the binding. So you'd either have to destroy the book or know how a book's put together. But unfortunately, the book's already destroyed. So I've got this shiny brass ring. Now we just have to find where it goes.
Yeah, can we do a coordinated search of the place, or can we use those last 2 advantage?
Yeah, use the last 2 advantage to.
yeah. I think it's not a very large bookstore, so when you make a concerted effort to look about, you can see this narrower than usual door that is in the back that separates the shop floor from the back room. And prying it open, it takes a little bit of force, the settling, the weathering, all of that. It's got the door bit stuck. But as you get in, you can see that it's basically a converted closet. You can reach out with your elbows and touch both sides of the wall around the corner. But there's a small desk there, some tools for rebinding, repairing books, and all of that are kind of spread out on it. And there is a small to medium sized wooden chest that this brass key will fit into.
I'll almost unconsciously again help myself to a bison and impressing tool. Just from the.
I'll be honest. I think whatever you don't take, Frederick does.
Yeah.
It's like,
just one of the smaller clamps and one of the impressive. Just almost without thinking, just take those and then take the key and pause. Check the box. But there's a moment of excited glee, and you see his feathers go up, and there's a whole thing, and then there's like a twinkle between one eye, kind of like it's his yellow. There's a twinkle in his yellow eye, and he's like, yeah, and then it pulls out another long probing tool, almost just, essentially it's a very thin stick, and he starts tapping the box to. I'm assuming that would be a skill degree roll to check to make sure that the box does not explode. And can I spend? Is there any advantages left to spend on that last roll?
I don't think I'm going to have you roll for that. As exciting as it is, The
Secret
picture of the
compartments?
bookkeeper I have in my head, I don't see a reason why they would booby trap their box.
You spend about a minute just checking the hinges,
Mhm.
checking the keys. Almost considers just popping out the hinges and then realizes that they're quite well done and opens the box.
And what are you hoping to see inside?
That's a good question.
What's inside, Andrew? What's inside the box?
I know certainly what I'm hoping for. I mean, I think it's very unlikely being out here, but there's a Hillier scholar by the name of Tavian Quint. He died 112 years ago, and he had this technique of effectively tattooing his words on pressed mushroom fiber. It's very hard to find any of his older works because them being tattooed on mushroom fiber, eventually they sporulate as they grow. After all, decay exists as an extant form of life, and we cannot kill it in a way that matters. It's a history of ancient High Reach dating back, generations. Very hard to come across, but sometimes when you find one, as they've been treated with like a tincture that slows down the sporulation. But it would be too much to hope for one of those being in this treasure box.
There are so many old books that we wish we could get our hands on. The lost history of Carniff. So many that are being suppressed by the Fellowship out east.
So I'm expecting to find something that might have been restricted or might have been essentially either contraband or something of great value that they've kept to one side, or stuff that they've ordered and has since been forgotten about. I'm kind of hoping for a clue. However, as Federer is talking about mushroom books, and like I'm hunched over this box, I just look up. Well, I find it unlikely that we'll find a rare and antiquarian book made out of mushroom fiber. So as glorious as that would be, in a place like this, which appears to struggle to acquire anything from a publisher, but it'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Also, I'd settle for a bottle of whiskey. We'll see.
Is that the famed untitled book of Grenka poetry, so virulently erotic it is banned in most countries?
I do hope so.
That's some fireside reading, yeah?
What do we
So
find?
inside this chest, it's just large enough that
Squeak my Esker.
there's about 6 good-sized leather-bound books that can just slot into it. It's where the precious, the old, and the in progress of being repaired were kept safe.
So it's the Chronicles of Elberfask?
Oh, was it were?
But the one thing that stands out to you, so you've got these books sit, their spines out, facing you. You can see the 6 or so titles, but sitting on top of that is an much better condition leather-bound journal that's been wrapped up and placed on top.
Gingerly unwrap the leather-bound journal and very carefully, again, going through the whole thing or trying not to do any damage to the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't hurt precious things, and knowledge is the most precious thing you can have. He remembers his old mentor tapping him on the side of the head whilst telling him repeatedly. And what's in the journal? Is it a diary or?
It is a diary. And the thing that you note most peculiar about this particular diary is as you are gently opening it and you're gently turning the pages, that it can't be more than a couple months old. The entries are dated in it. The last entry is dated maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago.
So flip through fairly quickly, but also start at the back and work forward, so I get an idea as to the story. As in, does it end with essentially? Is this a journal?
Drums in the deep.
Yeah, the drums.
They are coming.
The final entry in the journal is again a couple weeks old, but it is the most eye-catching as you start to read it. This is marked as Jordan's journal, and it says, "I saw Emily again last night. What a joy that our love transcends even death. I sometimes can't believe I get to see her again after she's passed. Oh, if only she would speak to me. allow me to hold her in my arms, but every time I move close to her, she moves away. And every time the dawn breaks, she fades into nothingness. I am left alone again, heartbroken, waiting for her to return each night. I spoke to Oliver. I am resolved to hold Emily on her next visit and never let go. I will show her no matter what. My love is far stronger than life and death itself.
You should never put the romance in necromancy.
So Tragus relates this to the party by initially going, "Oh, beats again. Oh, beats again. Oh, he had some cabbage and some beets." And then I get to the last bit and like, think we have a problem?
Is this fiction?
No.
Oh.
As a general rule, fiction doesn't include the time that he had to go and get his dog seen to by the local butcher and surgeon, and also doesn't normally talk about what you had for tea. There seems to be a nice recipe for soup in here. I think it's a recipe for soup.
Keeps that page.
Yeah. Well,
But it's more the slowly but surely declining romance. The death by something that he doesn't seem to understand. The decline of this is only a couple of months old. I mean, if we look at I look in the rest of the the treasure chest, it's like these inks would have dried. This glue doesn't last that long, actually. And I pass one of the glues to Federate. I keep again steal another little vial of glue. But they'd have dried if you'd not been looking after it.
yeah. Well, I think the first thing, before anything else, is that we resale this to keep it safe from the elements, and we definitely take this with us when we go.
Yeah.
Not so much the journals, the books, because they would be neglected here terribly. By the way, if you want to come and visit our library in the forest when we're back, you're more than welcome. Always nice to find someone who shares our love of books. Anyway, I digress. This diary is giving us the great concern. There's clearly been something else preceding this, because they've not collected the supplies for 6 months, and this is dated only a month ago. Let's skim back to around about the point the supplies stopped being collected. How far back does this journal go, Andrew?
This journal, this final entry, is again a couple weeks or months old. The first entry is a couple years old, so it's someone's personal diary that they've been in. But around about the time that the supplies were being neglected, there is essentially a jump in time. There's the mundane day-to-day life of Jordan kind of accounted for, his help and aid in the town. You get a sense of maybe some of the people who live here. But then, once you've gotten to about 6 months prior, that journal entry is completely blank from there to this final entry.
There's no mention of who Emily is and how she died in the intervening time?
There definitely is lots of mentions of Emily in the journal. She was Jordan's wife, and there's
a lot of Emily would have liked if only Emily were here, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say about 2 years ago. There's Emily gets a bit sick. There's some journaling in there about the despair and the loss of that, and then it kind of she's clearly passed a few years ago, and there's a little bit of consistent daily journaling as someone deals with that grief of the loss of a loved one, and then it slowly stops being daily, becomes weekly, becomes monthly, over the course of that 2 years, and then at the 6 month mark it stops entirely, and you get your last entry that's dated only a few weeks ago.
Very carefully check the other books that are in the chest, and I'm just looking for almost in a way that might I know Federette and Federef. I'm just picking them up very quickly, going through them and just making sure that it's nothing essentially nothing relating to necromancy.
It's the dummy's guide to raising the dead.
Yes. It's just making sure that none of these books are also part of there for further clues. But yes, how to raise your wife from the dead I 101 sort of thing.
So the other books in the chest are clearly not been attended to for the 20 or 30 years. There isn't a publication date or any indication that work has been done since the bookstore closed. The books in this chest are, we'll say, of great cultural importance to the various cultures of Finrain. There's, the history of the Hylia. There's, talks about Gilder and the Grinker and things along those lines. But there is definitely an empty slot as well as you look at it. There is at least one missing book from this chest.
It also suggests to me that there's a second key to this chest, because this key we found in the where the ledgers were in Bindings of the Legend, which has not been touched for many generations, which suggests that there's a second key to this chest somewhere.
Oh, this one isn't quite what you were hoping for, but it is the. I forgot its name, but it's not on the front. But I recognise the poem at the front, and that's the one about that saint and his love. So there you go. There's your exciting poetry. I think it's rather restricted in some places.
Yeah, well, it's the bustle. We think maybe getting out of town before full dark falls might be a plan, because certainly for where I'm standing, where we're standing, maybe we don't want to make the acquaintance of the rest of Lithny who are here. What do we think about that? And we direct that towards Fedra.
Do we want to camp in the woods or down by the shore?
We would probably
There are
more
structures.
There were, but it is we know how the forest works, and though every forest is different, we know what to listen for. We know how the trees are out there on the shoreline. I think even the best we could do is still be exposed. Let's seal this chest to the woods. Let's seal this chest back up. Keep the key on you, Tragus, and then let's.
Slightly more dangerous proposition. We could investigate the lighthouse.
It's half a day's walk.
If it would be at midnight.
Yeah,
let's camp first then.
Yeah, we head off at dawn.
We need a roof. We need a roof, or we need a tree. We need to be off the ground.
Yeah, very, very much so. Easy for you two than for this one. And Fedra smiles. But I'm sure we can find a way. And I think we take a looping arc out. But once we reseal the chest securely and weatherproofly, I think we take a long looping arc around the outskirts of the decaying ruins of Lithny, nowhere near the sea lion, and head out into the woods. I'm going to burn 2 more strain in the hopes that we can maybe get it back with some sleeping. But when we're out there in the dark, we're going to find some bioluminescent fungus and then coax the spirit of the fungus to shine more brightly for us, because certainly Fedric doesn't have particularly great night vision. So just to, not so much it's like a blinding lantern, but enough to help that we can basically tread and build a structure out there in the thing without losing all night vision.
And then what I would like to do, I would like to summon something to keep watch through the night.
Cool.
All right.
The question
we've
is,
got,
can I summon what I have?
So the 2 strain is your
Utility
casting
spell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give yourselves a little boost to your evening vision.
Yeah, and hopefully it's like that soft greenish or light bluish light that doesn't tank your night vision.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine that once we get under the boughs, the feeling I'm getting from the forest on Lithny is that it's not one of these welcoming forests where the moonlight gets through nice and easy. It's one of these old, gnarly, extremely frightening, unwelcoming, almost out of folklore forests where any shafts of light that break through the trees are rare and not to be trusted. So having a little bit of our own light, and natural light at that, is probably necessary, certainly for Fedra.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that Fedra and Tragus, both being avians, have considerably better night vision.
I also have a natural paranoia, so Tragus' heightened awareness adds points. Because essentially...
Do we need to roll a survival check to find an adequate place?
I think so.
That's Federate's department, right?
Yeah, I'm 2 ranks in survival, so
I
I
believe
shall.
I have nothing.
I have a rank. Well, I have a rank in survival, so I can assist.
We're going to give you a boost. I'm going to kind of work backwards on this. We're giving you a boost for those mushrooms, for the lights that you have, and to kind of create a path. We're going to give you a setback for the fact that the sun is under the horizon now, and as you travel into the woods, it's very dark very quickly. So the main light that you have are those fungi, and then it's unfamiliar terrain. So I'm going to say that this is a hard check. So 3 purple.
Would anybody object to me flipping a story point?
Not at all. Go ahead. Seems important.
That should be grade. See if that works. And roll. I mean,
Same
in
result.
fairness, every boost has come up for me again, but once again, that is a failure with 4 advantages. Maybe we managed to find somewhere, but it's not off the ground.
Mhm.
So, like Federath and Tragus can climb up, but Federath is having to sleep in the. Perhaps the boughs are just too thick for him to get through. To build a platform up there. So
I think that
it's sleeping under his cloak.
the root system in particular, because you're working your way uphill at a decent incline, becomes more than just a stroll up a hill. These roots are creating catches for the dirt and debris that would wash down in the rain, and so they become something that you have to climb over physically, hand over foot, or however you would describe that. You have to clamber up them. You can't just have a stroll. And so they provide a bit of shelter as well from the ground, but the boughs of the pine trees are near the tops of them, so the trees themselves are fairly bare. There isn't a good way to climb up them until you're at the spindly arms, because these are windswept pines, right? These aren't the tall glorious oak trees. These are fairly small. They're not going to keep you contained. They're just close in together.
So what I would like to do then, as we find a place that is at least suitable for Tragus and I would like to do some version of barrier. It's not an official version of barrier. What I would like to do is basically create a perimeter that will alert us if anything crosses it.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So regular barrier is easy, and then I'd like to increase the range, which would be an additional purple. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No.
Could I, because I got 4 advantages, could I throw some of those as boosts?
I think so. I think you have 2 left over that you could set as a boost to this. Essentially, 2 of them are used to create this kind of shelter from the elements within the roots.
Cool.
Okay, well, I will take those boosts. Do you want to flip on this? Because I'm rolling a lot of positive dice, just so you're aware.
No.
Okay, great. So I'm rolling 2 yellows, 1 green, and Federath plucks a pine cone from the tree that they're situated on, and in that metal clawed talon crushes it and allows it to scatter on the wind that's passing through the pines for my component casting. And I got 8 successes.
What? That's where all our successes have been hiding.
Right.
I mean, it's good that it's to
pine
hide them in fairness.
So the bits of pine cones scatter on the wind, and as they hit the ground, there's a sort of a short distance around us, a circle, sort of luminescent like that mushroom, just traces around the 3 of us. As it connects with itself, it flashes and then dissipates.
All right. And so this barrier, this 8 success barrier, is an alert if something, living or dead, were to cross it and into your camp. Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine there's caveats for like insects and small rodents and that sort of stuff. It's I suppose with 8 successes, potential threats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's mainly looking in for dead things or things that are larger than
if you
small
roll
birds
some
and rodents.
threats, then it would keep you waking you every time an insect comes through or a fly.
right. Yeah.
But yes, no threats. We're good.
Excellent. So what does camp look like as you guys get ready to settle down?
Yeah, I think for Fedra, it is just they carve out some space between some roots. By carve out, I don't mean they chop through any of the roots, that sort of stuff. They just kind of shove some of the dirt around to make a hollow. Excuse me. They pinion their cloak up with some sticky sap. So again, it's not being pinned to a tree, but it is supported up. They take out their bow, they unstring it, they wax the cord to make sure it doesn't overly stretch and lose its tension, seal that away, and they are used to sleeping out there in nature, so they make a rudimentary pillow, probably the satchel with books in, just nestle themselves in, sleeping lightly, and their bone-hilted dagger they unclip from their belt and they have resting across their lap with one hand on it as they sleep, just in case. But they are old hands at sleeping out there in the wild, and it's not currently raining too heavily. They've got a bit of a bivouac. There's probably enough space in there for Fedrith and Tragus if they really want to, though it might be a bit cozy.
Tragus is essentially like a little cone of huddled bird in the centre. You know when a bird huddle, when they do the whole like fluff out.
Blob.
There's that going on, but he's got a cloak that goes all the way down and across. So essentially you've got this little kind of forest cone of black, and you can just see his eyes kind of peeking out in the darkness. And he's propped up against the spear. And he doesn't snore when he's sleeping, but he does whistle occasionally.
Fedra, while camp is being set, is situated up in the branches of the pine, keeping an eye out on the forest around. And then when Fedra settles in, they get their cloak up in a dry space under the roots. Fedra makes their way down and settles in with their other half. Thank you for listening to this episode of Tales from the Grey Library. Thank you to Andrew from the Dicey Cantina for running this game, and Adam and Ed from Force Majeure for playing. This episode was produced by Nightcast Creative and Dicey Cantina. Be sure to check out Dicey Cantina's latest podcast, The Foxglove Letters, wherever you get your podcasts. And for everything we do here at Nightcast Creative, please visit nightcastcreative.com. Interested in supporting this and our other shows? Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Coruscant Nights, or buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/nightcast.